The assumption was simple and, for a long time, seemed reasonable. The best AI models in the world would come from the best funded companies in the world, operating in the country with the most advanced semiconductor infrastructure in the world. The assumption was wrong. DeepSeek did not arrive quietly. It arrived with benchmark scores that put it level with, and in some categories ahead of, models that cost hundreds of millions of dollars to train. And it did this at a fraction of the cost with chips that were not supposed to be good enough, built by a team that most of the Western AI industry had not been watching closely enough. DeepSeek is a Chinese AI lab backed by the quantitative trading firm High Flyer. It is not a household name. Until recently, it was not even a name that appeared regularly in the conversations that shape how the industry thinks about itself. That changed when DeepSeek R1 was released and the performance numbers came in. A model trained for approximately $6 million achieved results competitive with OpenAI's O1, a model whose training cost is estimated to be several orders of magnitude higher. The math does not add up in the way the industry expected it to. The technical explanation involves a series of architectural and training innovations that DeepSeek published openly, mixture of experts' design, more efficient attention mechanisms, and a reinforcement learning approach to reasoning that reduced the amount of supervised data required. Each of these is interesting individually. Together they represent something that cuts against one of the foundational assumptions of the current AI race, that scale and the capital required to achieve it is the primary competitive moat. If DeepSeek's results hold, and the evidence so far suggests they do, then the relationship between money spent and capability achieved is less predictable than Silicon Valley built its roadmaps around. That is not a minor adjustment, that is a structural shift in how the game is played. Think of it this way, for the past 3 years, the dominant strategy in AI development has been to treat compute like territory in a land grab. Acquire as much as possible, as fast as possible before the other side does. Microsoft committed $80 billion to AI infrastructure in 2025. The logic was straightforward. More compute equals more capability equals more market position. DeepSeek just demonstrated that a team with constrained resources forced by export controls to work with less powerful chips could find a different path to the same destination. The geopolitical layer of this story is impossible to separate from the technical one. The US export controls on advanced semiconductors to China, specifically the restrictions on NVIDIA's H100 and A100 chips, were designed in part to slow Chinese AI development by limiting access to the hardware that makes frontier training possible. DeepSeek trained on H800s, a less powerful variant permitted under the controls. The fact that they achieved what they achieved with those constraints does not prove the controls failed, but it does complicate the argument that hardware restrictions alone are sufficient to determine the outcome of the race. The fragile part of the DeepSeek story is reproducibility at scale. A model that is competitive on benchmarks is not the same as an ecosystem. Inference costs, reliability at production scale, safety properties, and the ability to build commercial applications on top of a model are all factors that benchmarks do not capture. DeepSeek has demonstrated something important and real. Whether it translates into the kind of durable competitive position that reshapes the industry over years rather than months is a different question, and one that is still open. What is not open is the signal it sends. The era in which the AI frontier belonged exclusively to a small number of well-capitalized Western labs is over. That does not mean the labs are no longer important. It means the map got bigger, and some of the terrain on it is less familiar than the people drawing the map assumed. The real question now is not whether DeepSeek is a fluke. The results are too consistent for that. The real question is what other teams in what other places with what other constraints are building something similar right now, and how close they are to showing us. Tell me in the comments what you think this means for the next 2 years of AI development. And if you found this useful, share it with someone who is still operating on the old map.